We've got some juicy news to get to on today's show, but first I want to get your opinion on the Falcons head coaching search. They have interviewed Bill Belichick and Jim Harbaugh. So if you're to pick one of these two head coaches, who would you rather have, Belichick or Harbaugh? Get in the comment section right now while this intro video rolls. For nearly a second straight night, the Falcons dropped a late-night news bomb, which is that they have interviewed Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh. Now, we have been at the forefront of the Falcons head coaching search news and rumors mill, but there has been very little buzz on Jim Harbaugh coming to Atlanta potentially until last night, when Jim Harbaugh became the 7th head coach to interview for the Falcons head coaching gig. He joins the ranks of Bill Belichick and Brian Callahan and the rest of these completed interviews, which we can share with you guys here. Mike McDonald, Steve Wilks, Ejiro Evero, Anthony Weaver. So as of January 17th, Wednesday morning, 7 coaches have interviewed for the Falcons head coaching job. Now, in order to comply with the Rooney Rule, you have to interview 2 external in-person minority candidates. So far, only Anthony Weaver, nope, not even Anthony Weaver would fall into that bucket because that was not an in-person interview. So just Ejiro Evero would check that box, but you need to have 2. So the Falcons cannot hire Bill Belichick or Jim Harbaugh today or tomorrow if they really, really wanted to. They have to comply with the Rooney Rule. Now, of those 7 completed interviews, Jim Harbaugh is my number 1 candidate. The only reason why I have not talked about Harbaugh more on the channel is I just didn't really think it had a whole lot of legs to it. I had not heard many rumors or buzz that Harbaugh and the Falcons were connected or that Atlanta would be interested or that Harbaugh would be interested. But Jim Harbaugh's got a pretty good job right now, right? He just won a national championship. He's not dying to go take the next available job. So if he's going to interview with the team, he certainly has some level of interest from his own end, let alone the Falcons' interest in Jim Harbaugh, which should be through the roof. Because everywhere Harbaugh has been, he has been super successful. Now, he also interviewed for the Chargers head coaching job earlier this week. And if you're comparing the Atlanta Falcons opening and the LA Chargers opening, one's got Justin Herbert, and that's going to tilt the scales a whole lot. But this is not his first offseason dipping his toe in the NFL pool, right? Last year, he interviewed for the Broncos job. Denver ended up going with Sean Payton. The offseason prior to that, he interviewed with the Minnesota Vikings job. Now, the word on the street is Jim Harbaugh wants personnel control. And that was something I guess the Vikings were not open to doing. And ultimately, I'm not quite sure if Denver bailed on Harbaugh or Harbaugh bailed on the Broncos, but they ended up going a different direction. Now, the big rumor is Jim Harbaugh's biggest goal is to win a Super Bowl. And now that he has given his alma mater, Michigan, a national championship, he may feel that this is the perfect time to enter the NFL again and achieve the ultimate summit, which is the Lombardi Trophy. But like I said a moment ago, everywhere Harbaugh has been, he has been successful. I mean, go back to even before Stanford, where him and Andrew Luck were winning double-digit games. At San Diego, a school no one really had on the radar, he won 22 games in 2 seasons. And that got him the gig over in Stanford, where he took over a bad Cardinal team that won just a handful of games before he got there. And then you can see the rise in Stanford going from 4 wins all the way to 12 wins in 2010. And ultimately, that landed him a job just down the road with the San Francisco 49ers, where in his first 3 seasons, he went to the NFC Championship game in every single season, right? He lost his starting quarterback, Alex Smith. And what did he do? He made Colin Kaepernick a household name before Colin Kaepernick became a household name for other reasons. But you can see, I mean, NFC Championship game, Super Bowl, NFC Championship game. Yes, he fell short, but how many head coaches out there right now have been to 3 straight NFC Championship games or 3 straight Conference Championship games? There's not a whole lot out there. In fact, there's none out there. So when you look at Jim Harbaugh's most recent resume, which is what he did at Michigan, I understand that it was not a perfect start in Ann Arbor, and expectations were a bit higher, but in the last 3 years, he really got it down. 3 straight trips to the college football playoff. Unfortunately for Michigan fans, 2 straight early departures, but just a few short weeks ago, he knocked off Washington to to enshrine himself in college football history with a perfect 15-0 mark joining the Georgia Bulldogs. And ultimately, if he does make the jump to the NFL, he will finish with an overall record of 89-25 at Michigan. Now, next up on the show, if Jim Harbaugh is watching, which I'm sure he is right now, I'm going to do my best to sell the Atlanta Falcons head coaching job to Harbaugh and my 5 reasons why I think Harbaugh could be very interested in the gig. But first, I do want to shout out our sponsor today, which is Game Time. You should not have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. So let's say you want to go see a Hawks game, or you're getting ready for the Braves spring training to open up, or you want to go catch an NFL playoff game to watch some really good football. Well, Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase, where you can buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps. One of my favorite features of Game Time is that you can get a bird's eye view of what your seat will be before you purchase your ticket. That way you're not showing up to the stadium, the arena, the ballpark, and you had no idea that you are stuck behind a big pole and you can't see a single thing. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code FalconsChat for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem the code FalconsChat for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Now, I have to envision that when Arthur Blank sat down with Jim Harbaugh, Arthur Blank was probably selling the Falcons a little bit more to Harbaugh than Harbaugh was selling himself to the Falcons. So here are 5 reasons for Jim Harbaugh to consider the Atlanta Falcons head coaching job. Number 1, you have a top 10 pick. You have the 8th overall pick in a QB draft class that is loaded, right? If you want to jump up and get Caleb Williams or Drake May, we saw the Carolina Panthers pull that off last year. I know that did not work well for Carolina so far, but I'm going to say Caleb Williams is a little bit more special than Bryce Young. If you want to stay put at 8, Jaden Daniels is right there. Michael Penix is going to be available at 8 most likely. And then there's J.J. McCarthy, your quarterback who you just deemed the greatest quarterback in Michigan football history. JJ's not going 1 through 7. So if you want to reunite with your star college QB and carry your success over to the NFL, you can do that with the Falcons' 8th overall pick. Reason number 2, it's a top 5 offensive line. When you think about what Harbaugh did at Michigan over the last 3 years to get to the top of the mountain, it was dominate in the trenches, right? Michigan had one of, if not the best ground game in all of college football the last few seasons. And I got good news for Jim. He's going to have that in Atlanta. They've got a top 5 offensive line. Jake Matthews, ranking 30th out of 83 qualifying tackles, more than top half in the league. Matthew Bergeron was just a rookie, and he was still finishing in the top half of all qualifying guards. Drew Dahlman, Chris Lindstrom, top 5 at their positions. Caleb McGarry ranking top 20. And here's the best part. This isn't the Eagles' offensive line, right? When I say that, I mean this isn't a bunch of older guys who are a season or 2 away from retiring like Jason Kelce. Like Jake Matthews is the oldest of the bunch, and I still think he's got a lot of good football left in him. Chris Lindstrom was a first-round pick back in 2019. Caleb McGarry just signed a second contract. Dahlman and Bergeron are on their rookie deals. You've got a lot of young guys up front. And when you think about what Harbaugh did so well at Michigan, a lot of it started with the offensive line. He would not be inheriting a team that needs to completely overhaul the Hogs up front. Third reason to consider the Falcons head coaching job would be a rising star in Bijan Robinson. Remember how I said a moment ago that the Falcons have a great offensive line and Harbaugh had a great offensive line at Michigan? Well, he also had some fantastic running backs in Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. And I got good news for Harbaugh. He's going to have a fantastic running back down in ATL with Bijan Robinson, last year's 8th overall pick, who wrapped up his rookie season with 976 yards, 487 yards through the air, and 8 total touchdowns. So not only will he be inheriting a great offensive line, but it's going to come with a stacked running back room with Bijan and Tyler Algier as your number 2. And then I think about what Harbaugh did so well when he was the 49ers head coach, which was run the football. Now, yes, it's pretty convenient when Frank Gore is your running back, but it was more than just Gore, right? They got Colin Kaepernick involved. They got a whole bunch of guys involved on the ground. In fact, if you look at Harbaugh's time in the NFL from 2011 to 2014, the San Francisco 49ers ranked second amongst all 32 NFL teams in terms of rushing yards, only behind Marshawn Lynch and the Seattle Seahawks, ahead of Adrian Peterson and the Minnesota Vikings. So, Harbaugh's success with the 49ers was predominantly rooted in the ground game. Atlanta will have a great ground game in 2024. Fourth reason is a solid defense. I'm not going to stand here and say it's a top 10 defense. It's a solid defense. I think if you're ranking all 32 defenses, it's probably somewhere between 11 and 19, right? Right in that middle third. But what I love most about the Falcons' defense is the dramatic improvements they made from 2022 to 2023, right? Points allowed this year, they finished 18th. That's 5 spots higher than the season prior. Yards allowed, they go from 27th to 11th. Takeaway stays about the same. Sacks jumps up 10 spots from 31st to 21st. Now, a big reason behind this was not only signing Jesse Bates and David Onyemata and Calais Campbell, but also a home run hire by Arthur Smith for his new DC in Ryan Nielsen, who was originally blocked, as Jeremy Fowler indicates, from interviewing for Jackson's head coordinating job, but is now able to speak with teams per source. Why is that? Why do you go from blocking Ryan Nielsen's ability to interview for other DC jobs and then change your mind? Maybe it's because the Falcons already have a pretty good idea as to who they are going to hire as their next head coach. And that head coach came to his interview with his entire staff laid out. And the Falcons go, well, if you're not going to hold on to Ryan Nielsen, we might as well be, considerate and let him interview for other DC jobs so he's not out of a job altogether. So this could be a sign of the Falcons closing in on who they want as the next head coach. And what a surprise, Tex. This drops right after the interview with Jim Harbaugh. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe not. Fifth and final reason. Ownership is willing to spend. There are some NFL owners that are content with just making a little bit of a profit off hot dog and ticket sales, not wanting to spend big money in free agency. And if they make the playoffs every 3-4 seasons and get bounced in the wild card round, hey, oh well, they made some money. They don't care. Arthur Blank, he might not be a perfect owner. Maybe he meddles a little bit too often. But I can tell you this much. He wants to win. And that's something that not all fan bases can say about their owner. Arthur Blank wants to win. He is convinced that he has the keys in Atlanta to bring home a Super Bowl. So, if that means spending some money in free agency, which they did last year on Jesse Bates and Onyemata and Caden Ellis and David and Calais Campbell, so be it. Like, at least Harbaugh knows he is going to ownership that's not going to keep their hands in their pockets and go, let's just build through the draft. See if you can find some cheap free agents. Oh, you need a good safety? Here's Jesse Bates, and we're going to make him one of the highest paid safeties in football. Atlanta's got a pretty good history of, if you need something, we'll go out and get it. Before we sign off and get on out of here, make sure to subscribe to the channel, by the way, for daily coaching news and rumors updates. We are so close to 18,000 subscribers, less than 200 away. So if you are stumbling across our channel for the first, second, or third time and you haven't just committed yet, please go ahead and do so.